welcome to one of my little corners of the internet. My name is Lynn. Alright, for this What's Under My Radar podcast episode, I am kind of summarizing this, I guess, as an episode on sharing resources and talking about topics from that perspective. It's kind of astrologically how I view it, a Leo second house, like sharing the resources. Many things that could be said on this, but we're keeping it at that for now. I just wanted to give you a little summary, but firstly, a reminder that there usually will be subtitles available if you're listening this on YouTube, where firstly and mostly this will come out, but maybe in the future on other platforms. So you can always go and check on YouTube for extra subtitles, even in English or in other languages too. Little reference to the French-speaking people, un petit rappel amical. Si vous souhaitez suivre les épisodes avec des sous-titres dans votre langue, je vous recommande de vérifier quelles langues sont disponibles. Par ailleurs, même si vous les écoutez seulement, sachez que, selon la plateforme, ces épisodes paraissent en général d'abord sous forme de vidéos sur YouTube. Okay. Topics. Music. That's kind of how it started, this whole thing. And I share a certain playlist and I talk about that. Of course, astrology, because how can I not? I already mentioned it. It's so ingrained now. There are some events, also several astrologers, and of course, everything, as always, will be linked in the description box. Again, if you're not listening to this on YouTube in the future, maybe go then to YouTube. I don't know for future references where all the links will be. Also some ideas that I got along the way about astrology, and maybe like I would be interested in maybe pairing up with someone or doing this myself. But yeah, love to hear what if you're interested, especially if you're from the Flemish speaking part in Belgium, because that's where I'm from. There's a tiny bit on the end on animal testing and abuse. And of course, there's always references to content creation, because that always comes up with me as I'm communicating and on this journey of expressing myself. And just so you know, I will pause, I will do breathing, and that's always an invitation for you guys too, to take a breath with me. There are some links to tarot, and I will put up a spread on screen too. And in that being said, even though this is an audio recording, usually I mention when there will be a visual on the screen, but I'm recording this after I recorded the episode on itself, because this way it's easier for me to tell you what I talked about. But I found some extra visuals that I will still implement, so if you're interested, it might be, how do you say this? It might be good to check your screen once in a while. I want to minimize my editing, and because of that, I am going to mention right now already, I refer to a European online shop called Rose Sanctuary, and I don't know why, because I actually know this their name, but for some reason I totally forgot when I was talking about this. But it's not Rose. It's another name, but yeah, I don't want to edit too much. So, and I also talk about the astrology part on Capricorn and like links to career, because that's usually like the stereotypical thing we think about. but I forgot to mention that it makes also a lot of sense in relation to career if you would make links with the sign and the houses, that Capricorn is linked to the 10th house, and the 10th house, number 10, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is often related to career and profession and many more things, but I just wanted to insert that here. Yeah, I think that's all of it. So let's set the stage. But I wanted to start in like musical settings because music does a lot to the energy, right? But before, I just wanted to mention, because it's also related to setting the stage, but in a more practical way, of microphones or not. Because I usually, or at some point, will also talk about everything related to doing this content creation and stuff, because it keeps coming up, so apparently I have some things to say. But I was thinking I'm using like earphone pluggy things as a microphone, but I have to hold that up then. I was like, oh, it could be nice if I could just use my technology without the microphone. And I was testing it out how it sounded, and I was like, well, it's pretty well. And then I suddenly realized, oh, wait, now it's pretty well, but if I don't use that microphone, then a lot of background noise might be picked up. And yeah, knowing I live in an apartment building, yeah, no, I'll probably need a microphone. And it's interesting as I'm saying this and talking about what's going on in the background, I'm definitely going to be talking about astrology. And I was firstly thinking of when I'm recording this, it's almost a full moon in Capricorn, but I also just read about Uranus entering Gemini, and I was going to mention I'm going to mention, of course, several people, all will be linked in the description box. But both of the topics, I read something from Georgia, from Visionary Astrology, but I was not intending about going to talk about Uranus in Gemini in this one, but it might come up, you know, my neurodiverse brain. Such an interesting journey, and I will definitely at some point have some content on that in relation to communication, and it will be probably also in relation of, I mean, if we talk about communication, you might as well talk about Gemini and then Uranus and then my own personal placements. But I'm still letting it unfold itself because I think I'm still receiving insights and perspectives. So let's get back to setting the musical stage, creating the right environment. I love music. I feel like music is really a soul speak. It really affects me deeply. And I will pop up a print screen or something like that on the screen of a playlist that I really wanted to share from the same artist. Not too many songs. I have never heard of this artist. I haven't researched or anything, so I can't really say much on it, except for the feeling and how I encountered it. I also don't know what nationality this artist has, and I'm kind of like, how do I pronounce his name? So I think in English it would be Pierce Faccini or Facchini, but he might be French or some Italian roots, and then I think it's more Pierre Faccini. I don't know. If anyone can tell me how to pronounce this name, or if you know this artist, I'd love to hear. And I've been really loving this playlist. I just put it on this morning and throughout whatever it is I'm doing, like on the background, and I was thinking then we're going to get into the astrology part of I was at the end of the playlist, and the last couple of songs, like that mood, I was like, oh, this actually feels like full moon Capricorn, because as I'm recording, we're really close to the full moon in Capricorn on the northern hemisphere. Yes, because I think in the southern hemisphere it might be different. I don't know actually for that part, but it really felt like, how do I explain this? Like Capricorn, probably because of my own chart and my own placements, is really for me related to practicality, earth-based things, getting things done also. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and like that Saturnian energy of, I know in like traditional astrology Saturn is called malefic. I don't really, I understand that perspective, but it's not something I like to say much or some, like, the way I see it is in comparison with Jupiter, which in traditional astrology is usually called, wow, the beneficial planet. And to me, my keyword for Jupiter is amplifier. It just gives and gives. You don't really have to do something for it. Saturn can also give you a lot, but you have to work for it. And I think maybe there comes the association of also Capricorn in an archetypal way being related to work and career and getting things done, very usually professionally oriented. And it feels that in those two together, they feel like they have some sort of grit and this graining in the music, like a deep lowered voice or something. I don't know. I would be curious if anyone knows this artist, if anyone knows the or listens to the songs, if you know what I mean. Like, do you feel the same, or am I making sense? Yeah, leave it in the comments, or I mean, make your own video response if you want to, or an audio podcast response. Would love that. Okay, I'm going to try and take a breather. And as always, whenever I do an exhale from actually my own placements, but also something I feel like that also usually happens in relation to the people who listen to me, that they also need an exhale. So it's always an invitation whenever you hear me do this to do this yourself and as many times as you want to, because exhaling, a breath outward, is releasing. And as humans, we hold on to so many things. And it's a good way to pause. And like, I want to ask myself what else, because there were already some things coming up and I was able to like, okay, Lee, finish first this and then maybe mention this and this. Okay, I do want to mention this in relation to the music, how I encounter things. Maybe that's also in relation to my Mercury placement, because it's kind of subconsciously, and I've often in the last months have been phrasing more, labeling that things come to me organically. And I think that has to do with it. I think there could be also a relation here in human design, having like stuff in on your design side, right? You can't really consciously grab it. That's the word I was searching for. But I encountered this artist and his music through one simple, I think it's almost only 8 seconds clip from one specific song, which is called Dunya. And I want to mention this because it's in relation to cards, and my channel right now is mostly about tarot and oracle, and I still love all the card stuff thing. It's really a passion of mine. Yeah, it's a whole separate story, so we're going to get into this. If you're not interested, you can just skip it. So there was this reel from someone who is apparently, and I didn't know it at the time, the creator of the Ritual Tarot. And the Ritual Tarot is quite famous in the tarot community. I don't have that deck myself, but I find it a very intriguing deck. And I think she made the reel is just some words, but it's a very interesting energy. It's very mystical, about like the sacred feminine, this like but very embodied fire, like the serpent. I think serpent is also mentioned in the words that you can see on the reel. But it's a very intriguing short reel, and I used it myself. I reposted it, and I realized after seeing that, and I saw that, I also want to mention her through, I'm so sorry because I don't remember if her name is actually Rose, but the company's name is Rose Sanctuary, and I believe her name is Rose, which is a EU based shop, so European based, who sells independent published decks. So if you're from Europe and you're interested, all the links again will be mentioned in the description box. And she shared that reel, and yeah, it was I love the stories she puts up on Instagram from Rose. And I don't know if I'm following the Ritual Tarot already, like the creator right now, but the little music there is like the first it's like the introduction of Dunya, of the song. And it really encapsulated me, and it got stuck a little bit. And I have this a lot, that I encounter like a clip from a song on Instagram, and then I'm so intrigued by it that I look it up on YouTube for the full song, or to get to know some more music from that artist or that group. And yeah, then I found this whole playlist and other songs of this artist, and I'm really grateful for that. Also, in relation to Five Rhythms, love the music for this. I mean, whew, amazing. So, did I mention now everything that I wanted to mention? I think so. Yes, I think that's everything. Just about the mood setting things and my post where I reposted the reel. Of course, I credited. I always like to do that. But you can find it also here, the link on the community tab on YouTube. And I think that's pretty much it in, well, pretty much, we're 12 minutes in, but yeah, I'm a talker. But in relation to the music, and there were already some astrology links, right? So now we'll get, I guess, more into the real astrological stuff I wanted to talk about. Yes, because when going to YouTube for the playlist, I saw content from another astrologer that I really love, how she talks about collective energies. And I do want to mention her. And I also want to mention some other musical stuff, apparently, that I was reminded by when I went to YouTube in relation to nervous system and cortisol. But I also feel like I want to talk about that. There are some links I'm making for a whole separate episode or topic. So yeah, we'll see. So, astrology. I already mentioned when I'm recording the full moon in Capricorn and Uranus entering Gemini. I feel like I can say so much about these two topics. I can say much more, definitely about like moon things, because I'm a moon ruled baby, although I don't do many moon rituals. It's a whole separate topic. But then in relation to astrology and looking at the moon cycles and how it could affect you, oh, there's so many stuff I want to mention, but I think I'm not going to do that in this whole episode. I might maybe in the future, or maybe specifically on this or on other moon cycles separately, or I don't know, on other platforms in like something community membership, or just organize some online gatherings where we can talk about this. I don't know. I feel like this community thing also plays a certain part of what I want to put out and when I want to put my shoulders under or want to broaden, or I don't know. Hope you get what I mean. So I'm just gonna stick to mentioning a few people as to sharing resources, and maybe mention a few courses or workshops or things that are coming up. Because as I already mentioned, Georgia from Visionary Astrology, she had 2 amazing posts. I have not done a one-on-one reading with her, but I've have encountered her through workshops and a little bit more close contact. And she really focuses on personal development and journaling and really like going inside and yeah, progress and growth and stuff like that. Not in how do I want to phrase this? That you're not good enough, but from a compassionate place and from a responsible place. So again, this is very relatable to the moon and Saturn being ruled, or Capricorn being ruled by Saturn. And I also feel like very relatable to collectively Saturn entered Aries, or apparently is now going retrograde again. And it is really about taking responsibility in how you show up and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely wanted to mention her. She has some courses also, but also I got really excited about this one. She has organized this before, I believe, but she's organizing some astro picnics, as I don't know if that was how she called them, but like free gatherings with people in a park to talk about astrology, and she kind of sets the structure for it. I haven't experienced this myself, but she has this summer 2 coming up as of I'm recording this, one in London and one in Berlin. And yeah, I might attend one of those because I'm really interested, and I send it to 2 other astrologers. One is from London, and the other that of course, I needed to mention at some point because I haven't mentioned her anywhere. And she deserves all the credit. My own mentor in astrology, which is Diana from Voice of the Sacred. She's from Romania, but I also sent it to her. And unfortunately, she couldn't attend. She was really interested, but she already has other plans during that date. I don't know if I was meant to share that, but it doesn't matter. She won't be there. But I also sent it to another London-based astrologer, which I will also mention again at the end. I haven't talked about her yet. But yeah, could be really cool just for myself in meeting this person in real life then. And also meeting Georgia, of course. So yeah, links will be in the description, maybe a screenshot on the screen, or if you're watching this on YouTube, from the astrological picnic. I think it's such a wonderful idea, and I would love if you are, maybe this could also be like a call, because I live in Belgium and I would love, as I said, do something more around community and stuff like this. But I don't think I could host something like the way Georgia does. But I do have some ideas in relation also to cards, but I would love to have a gathering like this in real life. So for me, I'm on the Flemish part of Belgium, more on the northern western side. So I'm thinking of cities in like Bruges, or maybe at the seaside. Oh, that could be also be really great, like a gathering on the beach. Yes. So if you're listening and you're from Belgium and you want this, let me know. I would love that. Or maybe even like, because I love going to the Netherlands, the side that's really close to Belgium. We have a little part of the Netherlands that is geographically without crossing, or without needing to cross water, like 𝚘𝚘 or yeah, really like 𝚘𝚘, Breskens. Yeah, if people live there and or they would want to travel there, that would be really cool and amazing. Yeah, I'm excited about this. Okay, taking a breather again. I'm not going to go into it right now, but what I am doing and what I read from Georgia's post on Uranus entering Gemini gave me a lot of insight in me taking a breath, taking a pause. My journey the last couple of years since 2018, and in 2018 that was when Uranus entered Taurus, and now it's gone through Taurus. It takes about 7 to 8 years. Apparently now we're talking about Uranus. Okay, fine. It takes about 7 or 8 years for Uranus to travel through a sign, and then it moves on to the next. And so we're now entering Gemini. And wow, yeah. I'll definitely talk about it, but I don't know when. And I'm giving myself also permission. I had the perspective of, okay, Lean, if Uranus takes that much time to move through a sign, you can take your time to talk about this in relation to specifically my topic, because it's very much related for me, but in general also for a lot of people with communication, because it's entering into Gemini, but my Mercury placement is also there. So it really, yeah, very interesting. And taking these pauses and asking myself, like, what else do I wanted to mention? What else is really like, and getting rooted again in my body is really necessary. So I think that's kind of all what I have to say for now on that specific side note or side way we went into. And because the episode is quite long already, I decided to cut and have a second part of this. So I hope to see you in that other part. I hope you already got something out of it. Thank you for being here. Big hugs. I love you. Bye.